All right, welcome. This video is predicting that famous singer-songwriter Paul Simon of Simon and Garfunkel will die on August 31st, 2025. This video, however, was produced prior to it being learned the way in which Paul Simon will die. It is now recognized through God's true big picture of signs, patterns, and connections, which is only being explained on this channel, that Paul Simon will first slip and fall on August 30th, and then as a result of his injuries, will die on August 31st. Paul Simon has a big hit, a hit song, Slip Slidin' Away. And this is one way in which God, or through this song and many other prophetic signs, God is communicating that Paul Simon will slip and fall on August 30th and then die the following day. Currently, there is no news of Paul Simon's health. Absolutely no news of Paul Simon's health is in the media. Furthermore, he recently finished a concert tour on August 6th. So as of August 6th, he was healthy enough to perform at concerts. But given now that we know he will die from falling, his health, his state of health, would be irrelevant anyway. So it'd be one thing to predict the death of an old man. He is 83. That said, he could live another 7 years. There's no way to really know that he will die on August 31st because there's no news of his personal health. But more than that, he is predicted to die from falling and suffering from the injuries. And that cannot be known ahead of time. There's no prior warning or heads up, such as a person's health or state of health. Again, just to be clear, Paul Simon is predicted to die on August 31st, yes, and he is old, yes, but he is predicted to die from falling. And that date is known also to be August 30th, which is after today's date. The post date of the video you are watching on the social media platform proves that this video was posted prior to August 30th. And of course, there's no humanly way possible that I could know that Paul Simon will slip and fall on August 30th and then die the following day. In other words, when this prediction comes to pass, it'll prove everything that I say in this video, and that's the purpose of this prediction that is from God. And it is also, of course, to prove that the righteous Christian God of the Bible is the true God. All right, welcome. This video is predicting that famous singer-songwriter Paul Simon of Simon and Garfunkel, the duo from the 1960s and 70s, will die on August 31st, 2025. This video you are watching proves that this prediction is being made ahead of time, for one thing, because of the post date that the video is posted on the social media platform you are watching this on. Also, this email here, as you can see, was just composed, and it documents this prediction for August 31st and the death of Paul Simon. And as we can see here, there is this timestamp here of August 13th. All right, so these reasons for knowing how it is that Paul Simon will die on August 31st are known since at least August 13th. Currently, there is zero news in the media regarding Paul Simon's health. Besides that, he recently had a bad back and had to cancel one of his or two of his concerts, or postpone them. No, I think he just canceled them, I forget. But then he resumed his concert tour right after. He was only absent for a day or two because of a bad back. And people I don't think, die from having bad backs. So anyway, that said, the knowledge that God is using Paul Simon and his death and the timing of his death as a major prophetic sign has been known for many years. 3 years, over 3 years. And there are many, many profound reasons for why God is using Paul Simon. All right, and so here is how the mind of the skeptic or the agnostic atheist will think. This is what the skeptic will think. They will conclude that I must have made videos and provided reasons for many different dates, including maybe even every date of the year, hoping that eventually Paul Simon would finally die. But that is crazy. And only a crazy person would do such a thing. And truthfully, the person that concludes that this is what is going on here is the crazy person. That's completely irrational. And so, for one thing, Paul Simon could live another 7 years, and he is only 83, and it could be a long time. There's no reason to know that Paul Simon is going to die anytime soon, let alone specifically on a date. And I don't have time to do what I just suggested. That's literally crazy. All right, but that's how the mind of the skeptic works, because truthfully, rejecting God isn't rational. It's completely irrational. That's another subject. What further confirms the prediction here are these reasons for how I know August 31st and Paul Simon. These reasons could not be concocted in the imagination of a human being. You will see this. You will see these profound reasons. And like I say, no human imagination could ever dream up these sorts of ideas, let alone for multiple dates. Okay, so let's get into it. This email is documenting the prediction that singer-songwriter Paul Simon of Simon and Garfunkel will die on August 31st, 2025. Paul Simon is predicted to die in the month of August because August is the 8th month of the year. The first verse of the book of Revelation, chapter 8, describes a period of silence that is observed in heaven. Simon's first big hit that launched his career was Sound of Silence. God uses firsts for prophetic signs. Paul Simon performed on the first broadcast of Saturday Night Live in Manhattan after the events of 9/11 and 2001. He also performed at the 9/11 memorial on the 10th anniversary of 9/11. Simon is predicted to die on August 31st, 2025. On this night, so in other words, what I've established here is that in God's signs, Paul Simon is, if you will, symbolism for 9/11. He's also from New York City, known for being from New York City. So I've established this connection between Paul Simon and 9/11. Now, on this night of August 31st, Venus, the planet, will be in conjunction with the Beehive Cluster constellation in Cancer. This is symbolism for Jesus' rapture of the church. So the planet Venus in Bible prophecy is said to be symbolic of Jesus. And the Beehive Cluster is symbolic of the church. It's made up of many stars, but it's the Beehive Cluster. It's symbolic of the church. And this is an example of these signs in the night sky that God has provided over the years that symbolize the rapture. Because as the Apostle Paul wrote, the followers, the true followers, the faithful of God will be raptured, as it's said, caught up into the sky, into the clouds, and they will meet the Lord there and then be with him forever, and then return with him, in fact, at his second coming, incidentally, in their resurrected bodies. This is the period that they will be hidden in heaven will be the period of the extreme wrath of God on earth. So they'll miss that. They'll be saved from that. They'll be raptured. So this is an example of this. Okay. Now on October 18th, 1975, Paul Simon was involved in a skit on Saturday Night Live that involved the Killer Bees, which was a thing back in the 70s on Saturday Night Live. these cast members dressed up as bees, the killer bees. October 18th, 1975, and Paul Simon was involved in one of these skits. October 18th, 1975 is 18,215 days before August 31st, the date it is predicted that Paul Simon will die. And again, this is the date in 1975 that Paul Simon was involved in one of these Killer Bees skits. Now, 18,215 is the 4,639th semi-prime number. God uses these. These are numbers that are divisible only by two other prime numbers. Now, 4,639 is the 626th prime number, and 626 is the 191st semi-prime number. And God uses combinations of two ones and a 9 to hint at 9/11, which brings us back to 9/11, which, as I mentioned, Paul Simon is symbol of, is a symbol for 9/11. That's why we have the connection between the Saturday Night Live broadcast in Manhattan, where the events took place on 9/11, and Simon's predicted death. And again, this connection boils down to a number that hints at 9/11. Additionally, the beehive cluster is known as M44. In God's signs, the number 4 is associated with Paul Simon. I've explained this so many times, but I guess I should explain it again. Paul Simon is associated with the number 4 in God's signs because of the trumpet judgment that follows the period of silence in heaven in Revelation chapter 8. And again, Paul Simon's first hit was Sound of Silence. There's this trumpet, one of the 7 trumpet judgments. And by the way, 7 is the 4th prime number. One of the 4th prime number of judgments is the trumpet judgment that speaks of the demons that cross the bridge from the bottomless pit, demonic realm, into the earthly realm after the key opens the door. Okay, now Simon's biggest album with Garfunkel was Bridge Over Troubled Water. And so that's the bridge. Now, he's known for music composition, and music composition involves keys. So there's this key that opens the door. And the door in God's signs is the same symbolism as the bridge. Now, the door is the symbol that is the 4th letter of the Hebrew alphabet. The 4th letter of the Hebrew alphabet is the symbol for a door. The name of that letter is Dalat, which is where we get the word delta, the 4th letter of the Greek alphabet. And from that, we get the word in English, door. So door is symbolism for 4, and so is Paul Simon because of the bridge door symbolism. Another thing that God is using Paul Simon for is to point to this idiom that is in the book of Amos, because famous Amos, the founder of famous Amos Cookies, Wally Amos, was the first agent to sign Simon and Garfunkel, and he lured them into his office with cookies. He died at the age of 88 in 2024, and that hinted at Revelation chapter 8. The first verse of that hinted at the book of Amos chapter 8, because his name is Amos, and he died at 88. Now, the first verse of Amos is a description of a basket of summer fruit. Again, that's relevant because of the first verse of the 8th chapter of Revelation, which is the Sound of Silence verse. But the first verse of the book of Amos chapter 8 is the description of the basket of summer fruit, which baskets of summer fruit appear in the month of August, which is a confirmation that Simon will die in the month of August, as did Wally Amos, by the way, die in the month of August. Now, also, the book of Amos begins with the first chapter, and Paul Simon's prophetic dream that he says had in it a voice that instructed him to make the album 7 Psalms and to name it 7 Psalms. That dream, that prophetic dream of his, occurred on the date 1/15. Well, there's more reasons to know that God is using Simon to point to Amos chapter 1 with its 15 verses than this. But anyway, in this first chapter with its 15 verses is a repeating Hebrew idiom. And by the way, Paul Simon is Jewish. And this idiom is for 3 transgressions and for 4. And this idiom means the tolerable limit of transgressions has been exceeded, and now judgment and destruction is unavoidable. That's the 4 part of this idiom, which is another reason why Paul Simon is being used in association with the number 4. Okay, so that's why M44. Also, speaking of the judgment, the 44th president is the Antichrist. Now, on 9/11, 44 people, and Paul Simon is associated with 9/11, as I began explaining in this paragraph, 44 people died in the flight that crashed at a 40-degree angle into a 40-acre crater that is 40 plus 40 miles outside of Pittsburgh, the city of bridges, as in Paul Simon, bridge over troubled water, as in Pittsburgh, the bottomless pit that is opened, and then the demons cross over the bridge through the door that's opened with a key. And by the way, the word key is equal to 41 in simple English gematria. A equals 1, B equals 2, C equals 3. And Simon was born in 41. And again, music composition uses keys. Believe me, I know far better than you how the prediction made in this video was derived. And more importantly, I know far better than you why the righteous Christian God of the Bible has given me a voice through this prediction. If you are a quote-unquote Christian or Muslim, this prediction was not learned through a demon. Be warned that blaspheming the Holy Spirit is the unforgivable sin. If you are a New Ager or New Spirituality person, this prediction was not learned through somehow tapping into the supposed universal collective consciousness. If you are a conspiracy theorist, this prediction was not learned through figuring out a supposed code that the Illuminati and Satanists are using. This prediction was learned through the Bible and through watching carefully the Lord's prophetic signs, which Jesus commanded all Christians to do. Besides proving that Jesus Christ is the Lord, the reason why God has given me a voice through this prediction is to prove that the controversial things that I am saying in the videos on this channel are the truth. Therefore, a wise person will want to watch all of the videos on this channel. What I will also do is create a video or two that summarizes some of the controversial things that the Lord will prove to be true when the prediction being made in this video comes to pass. I will leave links to these must-watch videos in the description box below this video. Again, the purpose of this prediction, that is from God, is to prove these things that I will talk about. And therefore, it would be foolish to not watch the videos that I will leave links for in the description box below this video. Aliens and UFOs are demons masquerading as aliens and UFOs. Most people's spiritual experiences are demonic deception, especially if they are not a true follower of Christ. In the last days, many people who claim to be a follower of Christ will have spiritual experiences that are in reality demonic. God became a man and died a horrible death at the hand of the ruler of this world, Satan, and then defeated death for you, so that you too can overcome death, which is the price that must be paid for sin. It is time to repent, which means to change one's ways and turn to God and become a disciple of Jesus. Do not listen to or follow the example of most quote-unquote Christians. Instead, follow the teachings of Jesus, which most quote-unquote Christians ignore. Like Jesus, you must surrender your life. Put nothing ahead of Jesus, your Lord. Like Jesus, you must lay down your life so that you may live. As Jesus said, one must die first, like a kernel of wheat going into the ground, in order to then grow and produce fruit. And like Jesus said, one must produce fruit, or else like a branch or a tree not producing fruit, they will be thrown into the fire. Jesus was speaking to quote-unquote Christians when he said this. One must die the self in order to be born again. And like Jesus said, one must be born again to enter the kingdom. Like Jesus, you must sacrifice your life for the sake of the coming kingdom. It means to do work that involves some form of sacrifice and risk. To have faith does not mean to intellectually agree. You need to demonstrate your faith through taking action. To have faith means to trust in God's promises. Taking action demonstrates trust and fear of the Lord. The primary reason that the wrath of God is coming upon America is quote-unquote Christians that do not get what I have just explained. The only reason a Christian is alive is in order to help other people become Christians and make it to the kingdom. Do not be deceived by those on the political left claiming to be quote-unquote Christians. There is no such thing as a Christian on today's political progressive left. Jesus said, "Do not think I have come to abolish or change any bit of the law or the prophets of the Old Testament Bible." In other words, the God of the Old Testament Bible is the exact same God of the New Testament Bible. It is essential that you learn about the God of the Bible and his ways. The God of the Old Testament Bible is looking to see who will fear him, and to fear God is not the same thing as quote-unquote revering or honoring God. Through Christ's ransom payment, a Christian is someone who has been redeemed and freed from slavery to sin and Satan. In response, a true Christian recognizes that their life in this world does not belong to them, and they become a willing slave to Jesus for the sake of the kingdom. Please leave a like and upvote the video, and once this prediction has come to pass, share this video with everyone you know, and more, don't stop sharing it everywhere in social media. And don't only put the link to this video or another video on this channel in comments sections of places you typically visit, but importantly, put the link to the video in places you never visit, where people who don't think like you visit. If you are a quote-unquote Christian, nothing in terms of an evangelism tool compares to this video with its prediction. It is a massive bag of gold. Beware of Jesus' warning through the quote-unquote Christian that did nothing with his bag of gold and was banished to hell. Also, read Ezekiel chapter 3 and 33 for this same warning. If you think you might be spending too much time watching videos instead of working and sacrificing for the kingdom through handing out flyers and potentially helping hundreds of people in the same length of time as a video, my flyer is filled with amazing information that people need to know right now, and it points people to the video channel. Now is not the time to be handing out typical evangelical tracts that are largely based in error anyway, such as, quote, Jesus loves you, unquote, for example. You can hand out the flyer on busy street corners, put them on car windshields in busy parking lots, and put them in mailboxes. Just send the file to your local print shop. You can download the file from the website. Please leave a like and upvote the video, and once this prediction has come to pass, share this video with everyone you know, and more, don't stop sharing it everywhere in social media. It is essential that everyone immediately read the homepage of my website, asteroidprediction.com. If you are watching this on the YouTube platform, please note that not all of the videos are on YouTube. You need to switch to the Odyssey.com or Rumble.com channel, and do it now in case you aren't able to later.